Hey there, we're going to call this the do's and don'ts of follow-up. Actually, first off, quick plug, May 14th, so a week from today, Division Zoom. Divisions, we're going to have LA and Desert in one group and have some really cool speakers too. Mark Lovis is going to spend some time with us. There's a lady named Claudiata Palucci from the Southern region I've known for years. She's consistently selling over $1 million, and obviously great people from our divisions as well. It'll be about 90 minutes. I know on Zoom, there's an attention span thing. If you're anything like me, sitting in front of the computer for a long time is super tough. So we'll keep it tight and have a little break in there as well. Should be a ton of fun. Also bring like either a magazine if you have a physical magazine nearby, or maybe there might be an opportunity. We're gonna do some breakout things where you could share a cover or something like that as well. So I hope you enjoy. Okay, the do's and don'ts of follow-up. So a couple of things. One is I will flat out say this. I know some of us have talked about this a lot. I completely dislike the term follow-up. In fact, somebody even sent me a video, said, hey, this guy, this sales guru or something on the internet talks about not liking the word follow-up. I don't know what his reasons are, but I'll tell you what mine are. One is that words really matter. Words can be very, very important. The meaning of a word, right? Words have definitions for a reason. And the definition of follow-up is to investigate, to make sure, to check something out, right? So it implies we're going to go see what's going on over there, some version of that following up. The action of following up doesn't imply a clear outcome. So to me, boom, that leaves things a little messy, right? It's going back to someone to see how they're doing, checking out all these things. There's no clear definition of what we're going back to do. Now, a second appointment, on the other hand, by definition, is a commitment to a decision, right? Or we'll call the BVM definition, commitment to a decision. The dictionary, when I went and looked it up, says a fixed mutual agreement for a meeting, a fixed mutual agreement for a meeting. So I want to start there. The idea of follow-up. I only say it in conversation because it's what people most recognize, but I prefer the term second appointment, especially when I'm thinking about the act of doing. Why is that? Well, good second appointments, and good just means a specific date and time where we go back, is really critical and one of the keys to regular weekly sales. I was talking to someone this morning about, what it looks like. I asked them what their best day and best week was for number of sales, 4 in a day, 5 in a week. And then we were, sharing both my experience as a publisher, what it looked like to get 4 or 5 sales in a day or week, and theirs. And what came out was it was never, we just woke up on Monday, booked some appointments, and 4 to 5 people decided to buy that week. It was a consistency and a concision a word? Concise, we'll call it precision of acting and scheduling seconds, right? So I remember one day, it was a deadline day, like a Wednesday, I think it was a Wednesday, 2 first appointment sales, and then a second appointment sale from something it was scheduled like Thursday or Friday the week before for that Wednesday, and then one from like 3 weeks ago, right? 4 sales in a day. So it was an act of consistency of momentum, activity, but also being precise with booking things together. The neat thing about a second appointment as well, if we do everything properly leading up to it, it only takes about 5 to 10 minutes, right? And that's maybe at the most. Also very helpful to let that person know, but I'll talk a little bit more about that. Now, let's talk about the thinking of second appointments. So the thinking of second appointments, the mental framework. There is something called fortune telling that I talk about quite regularly with family, friends. It's just something that once I figured it out, I'm like, oh, there's a term for this. It used to really kind of get me. Now I just recognize it as a normal human thing, but it's fortune telling is what they call a cognitive bias. Cognitive bias are these mental habits that we sometimes have, but when we're aware of them, we can actually change the outcome of them. And it's the idea of predicting a negative outcome. So it's thinking, I already know what's going to happen there, or this or that. So there's a component that's very helpful when it comes to selling more on second appointments, or booking more consistently second appointments as well. That's really important. So I'll talk a little bit about that, but let's talk about the act of booking a second appointments. It's really easy for us to hear like, hey, book second appointments. We go into a meeting, they say some version of, I got to check with the wife. I really just need to figure out if the budget's going to be there for the half page or the quarter page. Hey, I never kiss on a first date. I'm someone that just, give me 24 hours, 48 hours to make sure this is something I want to do. Those are legitimate, reasons for the most part. Sometimes we can dig in a little bit further, and we never want to be, high pressure. That's also important too. I think sometimes it's easy to get the ideas of being precise and clear confused with pressure. You could have like an intense conversation with your kids, and it's not really a pressure on them, or maybe it is even in some way a healthy pressure, but it's trying to get rid of ambiguity. That's very important in the sales process, or friends or family or whoever, right? So getting away from this idea of no high pressure tactics. It's not what BVM does. It's not what we do. We're never trying to trick anybody, but we are always leading. And I think one of the ways to take pressure out of things, or to take some of the even personal anxiety or stress that we could sometimes feel when asking questions and trying to book a second, is knowing what's coming next, right? That comes from experience, comes from knowledge, comes from the act of doing, also comes from what we say and how we say it, going back to this idea of words matter. So let's say we're in one of those situations where somebody has given us something, hey, I got to run that by my wife tonight, my husband, those types of things. There are other things I won't get into, like business partners, things like that. That's sort of another topic on how to prevent that. But we're talking about, we've run a full, complete appointment. And actually, I was drawing something a little bit earlier. I was talking to some about the anatomy of the sale, linear sales process. More to come on that later. But we have worked through the first appointment to where at the end, there's something very clear. Now, if we hear, I just need to think about it. It is super important not to just go, hey, great, think about it, I'll call you back Tuesday. That's not a great scheduling of a second appointment. Also, when we hear, I need to think about it, if that's something that you have heard, that comes from a few different places. One is, it means we gave them way too much information. We probably talked too much. We might have went down some rabbit holes or trails of different things, got too caught up in stories with them because they were, very social and it was friendly going on. So we've said too much. That's one reason that I need to think about it. So if you find yourself in that scenario regularly, one thing is to check in and say, how long am I spending talking? Am I able to get the point across, the essence of this slide or this portion of the presentation, the appointment, effectively without overdoing it, over explaining? Less is more, simple is better. Business owners especially appreciate that. Plus you make the most of your time and you don't give them too much to think about. It helps you get through objections. The other thing is when somebody says, I need to think about it, you can take shots at the basket to try and help. Again, carving, think of like a sculpture, like a piece of rock, and questions are peeling down the sculpture to where you get your Michelangelo, and it's not just like a lump of clay or whatever, rock, granite, something like that. So when you're need to think about it, you have this, what the heck does that mean? It's it's just a rock right now. But you can ask questions, and the way to not do this in a high pressure way, I find one of my favorite ways, or one of the most effective ways, is to simply invite some humility. We know that's the foundation of our culture. It's a very, very powerful thing in sales and life in general, with a phrase such as, hey, I appreciate that, or, thanks for sharing. I want to make sure I'm doing the best job possible. Maybe you can help me out. I want to make sure I didn't forget anything or leave anything out. What is it specifically that you're thinking about? Or, what is it? Yeah, that's probably the best way. I was trying to think of some other ways, but that's my favorite, hands down. What is it specifically that you're thinking about? If they go, hey, I need to think about it, and you go, well, what is there to think about? Gosh, come on, I told you everything. Obviously, it's not what we're doing. That would be high pressure, right? That's an example of high pressure. Probably not going to go very well. But peeling back to a little bit of humility, context, and leading with great language or words, hey, totally get it. We did cover a decent amount of information today. Before I leave, leave you with some materials, whatever, obviously we can do that, but I just want to make sure I didn't leave anything out, forget anything. Maybe you can help me. What is it specifically that you're thinking about? Right? And they might tell you, well, it's the price. Oh, thank you so much, or I actually just spent the last of my money and I don't know if I have any more, whatever. It's oftentimes a money thing, timing thing. Who knows what happened right before you showed up to that appointment? They mentioned that a little bit, I think today or on one of the conference calls yesterday, today, Monday and Tuesday kind of running together already, but that's important to understand, right? We want to take a shot. So the next thing, let's talk about who, what, when, where, why questions, right? So we've gotten to a point where they've given us something very clear. I don't kiss on the first date. I need to, just run it by, I need to ask my accountant what our projections are, see how much he's going to let me carve out, right? Things like that. If it's something like I need to check with my accountant, again, these are all objections that can go other ways. I can do a whole thing on objections. If you have objections, just reach out to me. We'll cover all of them. It's not what this is for, but we've gotten to something very, very specific and that makes sense, right? We need to understand what does that really mean in order to book the second. That's one of the keys to an effective second appointment. Now let's talk about the language. If you just say, can I come back tomorrow at this time? You might get a no, right? If you ask a yes or no question here at this point, oftentimes you'll get no and you'll get resistance. If you grab the horse by the reins, and you lead with a who, what, when, where, why, how type of question, more open-ended, but also you are guiding the conversation towards a bullseye, something specific, you'll get better outcomes. The question might sound something like this and has a little bit of context in the front, going back to words do matter. Hey, great. Sounds like you're really just deciding between the third of a page and the half of a page. And as I'm saying this, I'm getting out my calendar. Some of you have paper calendar, some of you have, digital calendar, whatever it is, be almost dramatic at this point. If it's your phone, pull out your phone and make sure they know that I might even set on the table, hey, okay, let's look at the calendar here. Now, when I come back, right, I'm being a little assumptive here. When I come back, they're telling me to think about something. They're not telling me no. So it is fair for me to assume I need to come back to get their answer. When I come back, it's only going to take, a couple minutes, 5, maybe 10 at the most. It's really just going to be answer a question if you have it, fill out some paperwork. It'll be pretty basic. And again, I'm being very theatrical, just making sure there's no ambiguity about I'm getting out my calendar to book this appointment. I have a little bit of time. I got 5-10 minutes where I can swing by tomorrow at, let's see, 1:15 between appointments, or I could also do a 3:30. Which one of those is better for you? Not can I do that? Are you all right with me doing that? May I do that? Sounds all great and dandy. Really, you're actually making it harder for them by asking them that because they're just going to default to no. And then you got to go back and forth. Sometimes people will say, yeah, I'm not saying that they don't always, that every single time it's a no, but you're setting yourself up for what is more of a common, you see people do this all the time, just sort of a quick response. They're not really thinking about it. They're like, oh, no, it's okay. Well, in their head, they're thinking it'll be easier just to get back together today, right? Now, let's say you say the who, what, when, where, why, the open-ended but direct thing of, I've got this time or this time, which one's better? And they say something like, oh, no, it's okay. Just email this to me, call me, we'll figure it out. I need to address what they've just said in as simple of a way as possible. That may sound or look like something, again, context, truth in sales. I say all the time, it's really funny, but oftentimes it's just inviting reality into the conversation with the phrase such as, we could do that. What I found is I'm in appointments, you're in meetings, you're talking to customers, we're both doing the same thing, and we end up going back and forth a ton. It can be hard to get back in front of each other, or time goes by, we miss a deadline, whatever it is. It won't take very long for me to come back. I have those 2 times. I also could just come back Thursday. I have another 5 or 10 minute slot at 9:45. Do you think 10:15 would be better, right? They will come back and say one of a couple things. Okay, hey, great, let's do that. Can we look at another time? They may suggest that. They may say, oh, no, it's okay. Just call me. And then I might, at that point, if it's like the second or third time, objection, I say, let me know this. What time are you thinking about? What time should we book the phone call, or what time were you thinking about having me call? Now they're going to give you a day or time, right? We're just trying to get precise and set a time. It's super important for all those other reasons. Most people will just be on board when you share it like that. I will say, I shared this story with someone on Friday. It was kind of interesting thinking about it. I have sat with a business owner where we've done this dance back and forth. You obviously have to be, in a good place. We can't be aggressive about it. We're not putting pressure on people. Where they gave me an objection to a second appointment 3 or maybe even 4 times before finally saying, hey, you know what? The real reason is just that I spent all my money. I don't have a budget till February. I would love to do this. Literally can't even do the 8th of the page until February. Marketing money is tied up. And at that point, I said, oh my, wow, thank you so much for sharing that with me. Because she was saying, I want to do this for sure. Got to be in this. Oh my gosh, this is great. Even trying to give me ads. So if all signs are pointing to it, it is fair to assume something's missing if they're not booking that appointment, right? Um, and so we may have to ask a few times. The more comfortable, it's not always comfortable. Life isn't comfortable. That's part of, it's part of life. There is a saying, pressure is a privilege, or an internal pressure to do new things and get repetitions in a certain spot can really, really help. But getting to that point of clarity, right? 3 or 4 times, think about that to book a second. Great news. What the outcome was, for me putting in that effort, she ended up buying. And she bought in February, March, or whatever it was down the road. We booked an appointment a little bit further out than normal nowadays. And that was too far out for me to write up an agreement for the future. But now we could write up an agreement for, a month or 2 in advance if you're in print or in a flip publisher role. So a little extra stuff there. But yeah, so we need to get to that point of clarity. So that's the who, what, when, where, why, how, is making sure we pre-frame or give context, give information. It won't take much time at all, 5 or 10 minutes. And I will say, if you're telling them, won't take much time at all, 5 or 10 minutes, I'll come back XYZ, but you're talking a ton as you're saying that, in their mind, they're going, I know they're saying 5 or 10 minutes, but the way this person's talking, like if I were all the context and extra things I've shared right now during this video, the person would probably go, there's no way this guy's just going to be in and out in 5 or 10 minutes, right? So there's an element of being precise and on point as we're booking these things that will help show them, I really mean that. I really mean business when I'll come back. And then there's that. So let's talk about going back to a second appointment. Now, this is where not letting the doubt creep in. Everybody gets it. Some people are super confident, kudos to you. I'm going back. They're signing. That's the way it is. Some of us normal humans sometimes deal with a little bit of doubt that creeps in, or things like that, where it's like, gosh, I hope they remember this or that. I've told the story, several times, probably one of my favorite ones. I went back. The guy didn't even remember I was coming. He had food on his face. He was eating lunch. Then he asked me if it was monthly or weekly, but you just have to keep that, poker face, I guess, in a sense, smile a little bit at it and keep it very simple. When we go back, it's, hey, nice to see you again. Last time I was here, you were deciding between this and this. Which one did you decide? Right? Not, are you still going to do it? Are you still thinking about it? It's which one did you decide? You may get an instant answer and a signature. You may get a question like I got that time. Is it monthly or annual? Gosh, right? Super silly. You may get anything. Just have to know. Keep it simple and then lead towards the sale with which one did you decide to go with. Sometimes just answer the question and you get a signature. Sometimes to say, hey, we decided to go in a different direction. Well, thanks for telling me. Hey, since, while I'm here, just curious, what, if anything, could I have done or could I still do to help you come on board, or come this direction? And maybe they'll tell you, right? So we always have the opportunity to ask great questions to help reel in the deal, get more information from them in a comfortable way, or as comfortable as possible. It's our job to really to make it comfortable sometimes and be precise and clear. And that's really, really important. If these things happen on a consistent basis and we combine these, these second appointment tools. And I don't even like the word technique, but that's, I guess, essentially what it is. It's a way of scheduling effective second appointments and going back to second appointments that result in a good closing percentage. Really, really makes the business a lot more fun, especially as we're improving our skills, developing. Just kudos to everyone, by the way. All right, that's it. That's what I got. I am out.